I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome all of you to our second Board of Ed budget meeting. Jerry, do you want to recognize our visitor or guest?
Sure. We have a number of our town officials here this evening. We have Dan Stewart, our first selectman, Smuckle on the RTM, correct? And Mr. Sheehan, who has brought his 25 questions with him tonight from our Board of Finance. And I mentioned Dan. Okay. Welcome, everybody, and we're glad you're here this evening. We had a little bit of follow-up from our first meeting. I just wanted to remind everybody that we're filming our workshops, and so that the budget document can be found on our website, as well as the PowerPoints that we'll be using this evening. So anyone from the public is certainly welcome to follow along using those resources. We also encourage any members of our community to email any of their questions. We're more than happy to address those, and we'll have time at the end of tonight's presentation to really open it up to members of the public to share information. Following our workshop last week, Craig Powers, Bob Chapensky, and I had an opportunity to sit with Tess Townsend from the New London Day, and we had a nice article on the budget in Saturday's paper, and we were very pleased to sit with her. Craig and I, early this week, had the opportunity to visit with the 3 elementary PTOs, PTAs, to really share an overview with our parents of the budget. And we've tentatively scheduled a meeting on February 24th for our parent liaison group to also go over the budget. The other thing that I just want to mention to the board, as a result of your action last evening, it would be important for us before we adopt the budget next Thursday is we probably need to create a budget line item for a superintendent search so that you're able to set aside the funding to work with a consultant. So that's currently not in the budget, but that's something that we would need to add to the budget. So this evening we're going to have the opportunity to really look at the school cost centers. We're going to begin with an overview of the special education budget, and then we'll work our way through the elementary, the middle, the high school, take a look at our athletic program, and then also wrap up with our buildings and grounds, and then get into any discussion that we have as a board. So we're going to begin with Kathy Ballone, who serves as our Director of Special Services, providing an overview of the special education budget. And Kathy.
Thank you. I'm Kathy Ballone. I'm the Special Services Director here in Waterford, and I'm going to be presenting the Special Services budget to you tonight. Before I begin going into details about the budget, I'd like to share with you some things to keep in mind as we go through this budget. As you heard from Jerry, there are special education costs that are directly related to state and federal mandates. And if you refer to the Appendix H, pages 100 through 124, I believe we've listed all those mandates for you in there. Some of the mandates are funded, some are partially funded, and many are not funded at all. And we need to keep that in mind as we go through this budget. Decisions regarding services for special education students are always carefully considered. We keep the needs of our students in mind while being ever mindful of the budget process. I just want to remind you that this budget reflects known numbers and costs as of October 1st. And as we know, transportation, student services, and costs are subject to change. We have a unique situation here in Waterford in that we have a shelter, a safe home, and a residential facility, and we have students that move in and out of those facilities frequently. And when we are the nexus town for those students, we really need to take on those costs. And that can affect us in very many ways, as well as with the transportation costs. And as far as excess costs, right now it's set at 70%, and I'll go into more detail what excess cost means to us later on in the presentation. Accomplishments. I'm excited to share some of the accomplishments of the Special Services Department. Our support centers continue to provide very individualized supports to our students. We are able to keep our students in their home schools and also consider really reducing the cost because we're able to keep our students in district. We now have a board-certified behavior analyst on staff of BCBA. That, as a result of having this staff member, we're able to lessen costs in our contracted services for the autism line item. She's also certified and is able to provide our PMT training. That's our physical and psychological management training. And because she's able to do this in-house for us, she's familiar with our staff, she's familiar with our students, so we're really able to have a very individualized training. We provided mandated reporter training for our staff this year. We continue to use our iPads and our Kindles and our Chromebooks, and as Ed shared with you and really went into detail about that, these are great educational technology tools for our students. The addition last year of the school psychologist and the social worker has been just phenomenal. We've been able to increase our family outreach and our services to students. And coming up in one of the next board meetings, we're going to ask our mental health team, our school psychologists, our counselors, our social workers to do a little presentation for you so that you're able to hear some of the great things that they're doing. And of course, we continue our collaboration with Waterford Youth Service Bureau. They're phenomenal. They work so closely with us, and we really appreciate that close connection. Drivers. Our drivers continue to be transportation and tuition. So I want to talk a little bit about transportation, because as it continues to be a driver, it also is something that we're seeing decreasing over the years. So if you refer to Appendix A, page 81, Bob really broke down the transportation over the last several years and how we've seen it decrease. So even though it continues to be a driver, if we adjust less things as they were, we might not be seeing the decrease that we're seeing now. That purchase of the 4 vans, the way we're able to look at carpooling and coordinating services with other towns really has helped us to lower that, even though it continues to be a large number and driver in our budget. Again, referring to pages 31 through 32 and 37 through 47, tuition continues to be a driver in our budget. This tuition looks at our magnet school costs. So for students who are enrolling in our magnet schools, we pay a tuition fee, but we also pay an additional fee for their special education services as well as their related services. We have tuition costs for students requiring services to age 21, as well as services for our students who are DCF placement and require a very specialized program. So all of these types of tuition services are included in this line item. Instructional services. So if you return to page 11, we see our tutors for regular education and special education students. So, for example, if we have a student who is hospitalized and has some very specialized needs going on, we have students who may require homebound services, and we need to have a tutor go out to the home to provide these educational services to them. This also includes specialized tutoring supports for students in our buildings. There's per diem services. This includes summer services for special education, evaluations, and speech and language services. And we see an increase here due to the contractual obligations that we have. Contracted services. Teacher of the visually impaired is a teacher that we share with Groton Public Schools. And we are able to provide very specialized services for our students with visual impairment through having this teacher with us, such as providing Braille services, which is a very, very specialized service. There is an increase here, and that is due to the teacher negotiated contract.
Kathy, is that the whole salary?
No, that's
half of it.
Right.
Half of it, because Groton pays the other half.
Exactly. Autism services, we have an overall decrease here, and again, I had shared with you that we now have a BCBA on our staff, so we're able to see a lowering in our costs there in that line item. Special education, contracted services for consultants, audiological services, we have a decrease here. We have our Waterford Country School nurse and our medical advisor. We're seeing level funding here. The nurse at Waterford Country School is a requirement of state statute, and I've provided you with a state statute there. Our medical advisor, I've heard several of you over the last couple of years ask you just about how often do we use that person. So I went out and reached out to our schools and asked them that. How often have you reached out? And since the beginning of the school year, we've consulted 17 times with our medical advisor. And really, some of the consultations continue because they may be over, such as the measles outbreak recently, as an example. So depending upon the needs each school year, that can change and adjust. Our outside evaluations and legal services remain at level funding. Pages 48 through 50. Travel for our staff that go between schools, we see a decrease there. Our assistive technology in the sense of batteries for hearing aids, batteries for FM units, and our rental equipment are at level funding. Supplies for the special education office and autism room are down slightly as well. Our ELL testing, much of our testing has moved to online testing, so we do see a decrease in some of those areas. But some of our special education testing, which are test and evaluations that you see there, include protocols and test booklets for students. Our tag testing supplies is level funding, and our copier and repair is down, and as Bob already shared with you, where that item is changed in the budget. Professional books, there's no increase here. Assistive technology, that's our ability to be able to purchase the Kindles and the iPads that we are using, our Chromebooks, we have a slight decrease there. Our dues and fees, we see a decrease there as well. The cost for my dues in Contace is reduced because I'm a member of the board for Contace. Decreases. This is where I referred you back at the beginning about excess costs. So let me explain excess costs a little bit. This is what we received back from the state. So the state sets a per pupil expenditure. The per pupil expenditure for Waterford this year is $15,153. If we have a placement of a student, let's use a nice round figure of $100,000 for our subtraction purposes. And if a student 4.5 times their per pupil expenditure, $15,153 times 4.5 is roughly $68,000. So we take $100,000 for the placement, we subtract the per pupil expenditure of $68,000, and we have $32,000. And then you take 70% of that amount, and that's what we'll get back from the state. So based on that $100,000, we would get back $22,000, roughly $22,500. If a placement is a state agency placement, such as a placement made by DCF, then it's 1 time the per pupil expenditure. So again, using $100,000, our per pupil expenditure is $15,153. We subtract that from the placement of $100,000, and we have roughly $85,000, and we take 70% of the $85,000, and we would get back roughly $59,500. $59,500. Okay, so that's the amount that we would actually receive back from the state. Containment. I want to talk again about the purchase of our Waterford vans. This has really been so supportive for us. My office and Bob's office have worked so closely together on this. Can't thank our secretarial staff more. Pam in Bob's office, and Sharon and Elena and Lisa in my office, who daily work on this transportation, who have to take phone calls from families, take phone calls from drivers, just to ensure that our students get to where they need to be, are safe when they're going there, and that we ensure that everything is in place for them. We really consider the personalities of our students with the personalities and placements of our van drivers. We're able to provide a lot of consistency for our students. They need to know who is that person that picks me up each day, and we're able to do that with our van drivers. We're also able to provide flexibility. When a parent calls us, we're able to respond very quickly. Instead of having to call another outside agency, we're able to do that in-house. So as much as we see a cost savings, we also see a great benefit to our students and our families with having the transportation in-house. We also continue to investigate carpooling and regional transportation options as we go along. We have several students who are attending Waterford schools and we receive tuition for their attendance. That money is returned to the town of Waterford, and that's 4 students presently. We're working to provide our own transition program. I'm very excited about this. Back over a year ago, I want to say that we really started working on this and reaching out to colleges in the area, and I have been able to work with a college in the area to begin to start a transition program. We're very much toward the end of that collaboration. We're finalizing things and hope to have it ready to start this summer. Our students who continue with us to age 21 will have the benefit of working with our staff on that college campus. They'll be among their peers. They'll have jobs on the campus. They'll also receive educational training in living skills and independence, social skills, all of those areas while on the campus as well. And we're also working with the community center here in Waterford to have opportunities for them to do social activities with other students from other towns around. So we're very, very excited about this. It hasn't been finalized yet, but we are very close to that final phase with this. Our support centers and our autism classrooms continue to be cost savings for us while allowing our students to really provide a very specialized service to our students, but they can also remain in their home schools. And if you look at Appendix A on page 81, Bob really broke down that cost savings for you. We gave you some examples of the way we're able to have some cost avoidance with those classrooms. So overall, in the special education budget, we are seeing a decrease of around $11,000. We're still maintaining our 14-15 services for our students, but with the cost initiatives that we've been able to really look at and get more in depth with our transportation, our tuition services, and really focus those, we're able to look at a decrease in those areas.
I can tell you that it's rare in my entire career that a special education budget has actually decreased in any fiscal year. So it's a real credit to Kathy and her staff for the initiatives that have been taken in the last few years.
Questions?
No, I'm just amazed at the cost of some of the out-of-district school charges. It's a lot of money. Also, just a question: the students that go that attend the college, will they receive some type of a certificate and be able to, take part in some type of graduation?
The transition program.
Transition.
So the transition program will be a vocational support program. So they will have the opportunity to learn job skills as well as independent living skills. So it will be a training program for them and also providing them work experience. So they will also be creating resumes, and we hope that through those resumes they'll be able to apply for jobs, and we will support them in a job if they are able to find one on their own.
Will they get some type of a certificate, though, to prove that they had gone through the program and they completed it, or they don't do that usually?
That's not usually a certificate program, but certainly if a student were to finish some type of certificate program, but they're not involved in that in this program.
And is this taking the place of students that you place at the Lighthouse in Niantic and around there, or is this a different program?
Yeah, it depends.
Okay.
So we have students who have very specialized, more intensive needs, and they may need to receive services in a different setting than this vocational setting that we're setting up. This setting is going to be providing students with a work experience on the job. There are some students that might not be the appropriate placement for. They may be better in a more specialized placement where there are more staff around to help and to support them, and they may be doing more training in that program.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Private placements. Are there choices for those, or is it usually just one choice for a particular kind of situation?
We consider the student and their very individualized needs, so depending upon if the student had a very specialized behavioral need or multiple handicapped students, then we look at a placement that best fits them.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Kathy.
All right, thank you.
Next, we're going to take a look at the elementary request this evening. Oh, coming around. Thank you very much. That's perfect. No. We always have to break. I think Pat's going to start.
Good evening, everyone. The three of us will be reviewing our elementary budget. Beginning, obviously, is the agenda, so we'll take you through our fiscal year 15 accomplishments, move into our next level of work. I'll look at what we're proposing for our fiscal year 16 elementary budget, a little bit of a comparison of the 2 years, some explanation of the changes, and a conclusion. Our fiscal year 15 accomplishments, some of the things we're most proud of and have been so successful this year are the addition of the literacy and math coaches who provide professional support to our teachers. That's been just a phenomenal resource this year, and we know it's successful when the teachers are talking about this all the time and going to them for help. They certainly have been a success this year and a big support to our students and staff. The implementation of Readers and Writers Workshop model of instruction is ongoing. We have a full-time literacy support teacher with the assistance of a full-time paraprofessional to provide support to our young students. Our tag math teacher, who also on the other half of her job provides math support to students in need, and she also has the assistance of a full-time paraprofessional. The literacy and math support teachers work on a push-in model, and some pull out, but basically they're pushed into the classroom, so our classrooms have the advantage of 2 adults, sometimes more, helping all the students. We have a budget that continues to support appropriate class size. We also have the addition of an elementary tech coordinator, which has been another wonderful resource to our teachers and to our computer lab paraprofessionals, and a full-time social worker and psychologist in each building, which we'll talk a little bit about later, but those 2 professionals in our building have now allowed us to provide our students with ongoing programs. Some of the things they've done are a series of programs for expected and unexpected behavior, peer social groups, lunch groups, things like that they weren't able to do when we didn't have them full-time in each building. So it's been a wonderful resource to the students, the staff, and the families.
And again, based on those accomplishments and to really move forward with our next level of work, we really initially wanted, and I know Jerry talked about this earlier, to maintain our class sizes, especially at the K2 level. And also the next 2 really tied together is completing our implementation of the workshop model of instruction and continue to support professional growth of teachers through the coaching model. So those 2 things marry nicely together as well. And also ensure the successful implementation of Common Core state standards and the Smarter Balance assessments. Continue to expand our programs and services to support the mental well-being of our students. Pat gave a few examples of what we've been able to do this year, and looking with those staff they're already planning and thinking of things we can do next year to continue to be proactive with students and families and even staff. So, and again, based on what our parent surveys say, we looking for more and more after-school activities and opportunities for students. We're looking to expand the after-school opportunities for the students. So as we look at the line items in our budget for each school, and you'll see on the next slide when the other Chris talks to you, some of them have remained the same. Some have some have increased and some have gone down slightly, really because, again, we've really looked at what our needs are in each of the schools for next year and planned accordingly. So our conference and meeting line item is $2,200. Supplies, our general supplies, $40,000. Our AV supplies, $3,000. Text, $18,500, and library supplies, $3,000. So again, Chris will go through some of the increases and decreases and the reasoning behind that.
So, comparing last year's budget to this year's budget, we're flat in conferences and meetings. It's still critical to send our teachers out for PD, and we've been doing a lot of sending like 1 or 2 teachers out, bringing that information back to the whole staff to benefit everybody. There's an increase in general supplies, along with AV. We were able to find some decreases in text, and then we also wanted to increase our library supplies. So I'll talk a little bit more in detail about that in the next slide. So each school has an increase in 3,000 of additional materials. They're required for workshop implementation, which are the initiatives that we're talking about earlier. It's a multi-year program, so we're supporting the classroom libraries and also the text that teachers need to use as professional resources. Also, Craig spoke about the increase in art time for all our elementary students, so that would also, if they had art 1 every 4 days as opposed to 1 every 6 days, then our art teachers would need more supplies. So we added some more in there. Our AV supplies, you've noticed that there's a need for more document cameras, which are cameras that are attached to our Promethean boards in order to help support some real-time learning. And then also replacement bulbs for Promethean boards, they're starting to go. Even though we have brand new buildings, the bulbs are starting to go in the projectors, so we have to replace those. We were able to find some savings in the text item, and that was through our math coaches were able to identify some areas where we could eliminate some math consumables based on what our new curriculum needs are going to be. So that was a good spot for that. And then lastly, there was an audit done about all the school libraries. In the elementary library, the average age of the book is about 25 years old in the elementary library. So we really wanted to take a chance to increase.
Classic.
My children have those books out.
Elementary kids tear up those books. They cost a lot because they're very sturdy. So we'd like to add some more to our school libraries as well.
So in conclusion, the 3 elementary schools are asking for a total increase of $6,000, about $2,000 per school. The changes that we're requesting reflect a needs-based budget. It includes a decrease in the textbook account and increases in library, AV, and the general supply line. Any questions?
Questions? I just have something to say. I'm really happy that you're adding art, giving the students more art. And I'm really happy to hear that you're going to try offering some after-school activities. I think that's very important for students. And maybe, you can work together with, Rec and Parks and Youth Service Bureau, too, to maybe they have some other ideas that they could help you with, in your building. Because they have a nice group of high school students that help out at the Youth Service Bureau. And a lot of the students need community service time, so. And then the children look up to them. We have some really wonderful students in town.
We work hard to offer them now, but we have to look at what can we do for free. So this will expand our resources. It won't mean that we won't still continue to do some that are free, but we'll be able to really enhance the program and offer a wider variety.
What do you have? What do you offer now?
For example, throughout the year we have creative writing and drama for all grades. We have a series of PE activities that our PE teacher offers, from flag football, broom ball, tennis, baseball, jump roping. We have karate. We have a musical theater group. And anything.
Yeah, and every year we do a school play, which is going on right now. We have a healthy kids club. We also have our garden club, and right now, again, that's all really through volunteer parents and staff members who are doing that. So we've added before school or student council this year. We've added that, and we're looking to add some additional things as well.
Are the parents responsible for picking the children up after school?
Yes.
If they are.
Yeah.
With the increased art time, what gets decreased?
So we looked at all of our special art, music, PE libraries. We're going from a 6-day rotation to a 4-day rotation because we're increasing each of the specials from 30 to 45 minutes, so a 15-minute increase. The special art, music, unified art.
Unified art.
So, we currently have for PE and music 35 hours of instruction a year. That will decrease with this change to 34, so 1 hour change, and art will go up from 23 to 34 hours. We're going to have the kids come right off the bus into class. We don't think that the morning recess is really an effective amount of time. We will continue to have after lunch recess. So where we're picking up the time is the small decrease in PE and music and in the sort of elimination of the elementary morning as they arrive off the bus recess and make that academic time.
Thank you.
You may recall that 4 years ago we needed to really reduce all of the after-school programs, or at least the funding for those programs due to our budget cut. And so gradually we've been able to restore. So the increase here is for 3 additional activities at each school.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Sachs with the Clark Lane Middle School budget. I got it. Coming right around in.
I wait to see what you're going to do for.
Good evening, everyone. Very excited to share the 2015-16 budget, and I truly appreciate the support of Jerry Craig, Bob, and my assistant principal, Tracy Moore, and my fellow administrators. We go through a nice process where we bounce a lot of ideas off each other, so I really appreciate their help. Our theme at Clark Lane this year has been making a difference, so I'm hoping that this budget furthers that sentiment. So our agenda is to talk about our accomplishments this year, our next level of work, program proposals, and how all of this supports Clark Lane overall. So first and foremost, we're very proud that we were designated a school of distinction the last 2 years, and what that did the past year was it opened up an opportunity to apply for a grant. So this past fall, in combination with the curriculum leaders and other members of our school, we wrote this grant, and it was submitted October 1st approximately, and we found out about 3 weeks ago that they awarded us most of our grant. It was for, I think, $24,000, and they awarded us $20,000. We're going to put that to great use through PD, equipment, and we're going to be visiting the Alliance schools that are through this district, this distinction grant, to share our practices at Clark Lane with other schools. So it's pretty exciting. We continue to use our instructional coaches very thoroughly, and we've refined them a lot this year to go into specific classes and specific grades, and it's been working out very well. Obviously, we're still focusing on literacy, and that is actually the focus of the School of Distinction grant. We are really grateful about the expansion of mental health services that this board last year had the foresight to enact through the budget, because this has really helped a lot of kids. We have an additional half-time psychologist, and it's been really, really helpful on a daily basis at our school. Our relationship with the SRO and, of course, the Waterford Police has been superb, continues to grow, and especially since Mr. Powers has set up a number of trainings in which we went with those people to the trainings, and we really got really close to those people, and I feel even more confident about safety protocols at our school, and something we learned called SEPCAD, which is about the architecture of the school and safety. And obviously we still focus a lot on safety and an engaging school environment, which is really key in a middle school, making kids feel comfortable so they can learn to their highest potential. Teachers have gone to a number of different professional conferences this year, and off the top of my head, Learning in the Brain was one of them. There was a COLT conference, C-O-L-T conference for language teachers, and this is all very positive training that the teachers bring back and share with their colleagues in their PLCs. I'd like to also point out that we have a new computer lab that was installed this past summer, and I want to thank Jay Miner and Ed Crane for their hard work. They repurposed computers from the old Waterford High School, and we have a beautiful computer lab in the 7th grade wing that didn't cost the district anything, that's used daily, and it's going to really help us in our SBAC use. And we've expanded Unified Sports to include a fun club, so students can be involved in Unified Sports, or they can be involved in Unified in a different way through a club. So that's really exciting as well. Our next level of work is to integrate Project Adventure, and I'll explain it on another slide, fully into our PE curriculum, to expand athletic competition opportunities, and I'll explain how that works. That would be through a volleyball and swim team opportunities. The next bullet, expanding and supporting new unified arts. This would actually be using all existing teachers and rooms and materials, but this is a lot about just being creative, working and brainstorming with Mr. Powers a lot about how we can take our existing teachers and just offer some new things, new configurations, and bring those four topics, 3D printing, art, coding, and finance, and just help feed a little bit more into the Waterford High School program. And that is at no cost. So that's all just internal changes that we will work on to be creative with. And the last bullet is internally, aside from the grant, is expanding some professional development opportunities within our reallocation of our own funds that we presently have. So this slide has page numbers on the right-hand side, and this really just shows how, apart from the two new proposals that I'll go over in a few minutes, how we're just going to reallocate some funds. We're going to take some funds and add it to our PD conferences, existing athletic field trips so that our students can have a few more contests in their athletics. And we're going to support student activities in athletics as well, special education, and a few others that you see there, computer, music, and an increase in dues. And we're going to take that money from our library fund, which in that same survey that Chris mentioned, we came out with the youngest textbooks, the youngest collection. And we sort of, what we did too is equalize some of the money between departments. So the rest of it is small changes, and it's supporting all the items up on the top. So that's present money that we just reallocated. So the two proposals, we have two proposals. One is Project Adventure, and Project Adventure is a way for students to do some really new and innovative and interesting things in the PE area. The PE area has been revised and adopted by our district, and our teachers have been fully trained in using all this equipment. And what this project would cover, this program, is outdoor equipment that's permanently placed, planned, installed, inspected, etc. Indoor permanent equipment, and a variety of portable equipment. And it gives all the kids at Clark Lane an opportunity to do some really cool and different things in the PE area. This wasn't covered in the construction budget, so as opposed to the other schools, this is money that would have been in a construction budget, but it wasn't in the renovation budget of, I think, 8 years ago or 9 years ago when Clark Lane was renovated.
You know, and as Jody knows, we were able to take care of that, the 3 elementary and the high school, and we have the newly adopted curriculum, and we have a whole. The kids go K-5, no Project Adventure 6-8, but then it resumes again in 9-12. So this really fully implements the physical education curriculum.
I remember 21 years ago we visited Pembroke School, I think it was, and with Kathy Havasino and Rick Little, and that's when they started Project Adventure, and Clark Lane was the first school that had it. So I'm happy you're putting it back.
Thank you. It's pretty exciting. And the next proposal comes out of our survey. So all of our schools survey both our students and our parents. And it's something that really came up in two years of surveys, was that students wanted more to do after school. So then we refined the surveys and surveyed the actual kids. And we found out that our 7th and 8th graders overwhelmingly would love to see a volleyball team and a swim team at Clark Lane. So the funds that you see there on page 50 and 67 would support that. And over 200 students in each area, in each grade, identified volleyball and swim team as something they'd love to have offered after school. So it's a very reasonable amount of money to support all those students and giving them something new to do after school. So pretty excited about that proposal. Sure.
We go hand in hand with our athletic programs at the high school. Both of those programs, unfortunately, we lost the youth program many years ago. That was never picked back up. This would be great to help our football. Our numbers are kind of stagnant. Our volleyball teams are very good, but there's no feeder program whatsoever.
And what we've been kind of doing is making those little clubs after school that are minimally funded and sporadic. I don't even think we had a swim club last year. We had it the previous year. So this should be something much more permanent, well advertised, official coaches, etc.
Are these things you sign up for, or do you try out for them?
I think you're just signing up for these. This is not a tryout sport as we're proposing it. It's exciting. So in conclusion, really what we're presenting is a level funding for what we have going and happening in the school right now, just being creative with our reallocation, and a grant that's giving us $20,000 to support some new PD opportunities. The two proposals, one, Project Adventure, brings us in line with the other schools and the PD curriculum, and the second proposal is really a response to student data and survey data that we feel would be an exciting addition to the school. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? Of course I do. I just want to say I'm very proud of Clark Lane for becoming a school with distinction 2 years in a row, and also for the grant. You're going to put the grant money to good use. I'm very happy to see you're adding more after-school activities. I think especially that age group, they really need something to do. A lot of them are going home to empty houses, and you're keeping them busy. You've done a great job.
When Craig and I met the other night with our elementary parents, they were very pleased that we were responsive to their surveys, where they said, "Oh, so somebody's reading our surveys." So they were very positive about that.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, if you think back to our first workshop, and really our goal with all of this was to provide the same level of service. And one of the things that we talked about in doing so is our goal was to not only provide the same level of service, but how can we be a little bit more innovative, and how could we contain costs? And one of the things that you're hearing tonight, you take a look at special education, you're looking at a decrease in their requests. And no change in level of service. In fact, with some of the practices that were put in place, the level of service is actually going to be better at a lesser cost. When you're looking at the elementary requests, again, thinking about a reallocation with a very modest increase for supplies. And then when you're looking at the middle school, their reallocation and really the enhancement through Project Adventure for physical education, and then 2 programs for after school. So if we go back to that first night, when we talked about those guiding principles, where we were with the academic excellence, trying to be very innovative wherever we could, to continue to grow the district in its programs, and then being very fiscally responsible. So I think it's important that we kind of keep that in mind as we review these cost centers tonight. We're going to take a look at Waterford High School. So let Ann know I'm passing those out.
And he's passing those out.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Andre.
Now, as you get into high school, everything gets a little bigger.
and a little more specialized.
In other words, it's a little more expensive.
And with that, it comes a little bit higher expense. Now, the ultimate question is, what did we spend our money on, and what did we get for it, and how do we plan to move forward from there? Well, you all know this is what you've spent an awful lot of money on in the recent past, this incredible high-tech school that we've really hit our stride with this year. How are we able to make use of this building? It's been great watching us go from last year, where it was new and we were just finding out what it was and what we could do in it, and now this year watching teachers who know what it is and what they can do just taking off with it. And you're seeing a lot of growth in what they do. Now, the resources this year went to really to support student learning in a lot of ways. First and foremost to me, those math and literacy coaches, the ability for us to have a variety of intervention workshops for students means that we're not leaving kids behind. We are finding kids as they begin to struggle and really giving them support. And what I've done for you here is broken down by the number of student assignments we have in our reading workshop for students who aren't reading quite at grade level, or writing workshop for students who have been identified as not writing as proficiently as we'd like. Math lab, obviously, for kids who are behind grade level or are struggling in their math classes. Our tutoring center for students who might not have a specific area where they struggle, but who really need some specialized support. Our academic study hall, which is just generally for kids who need some organizational skills, some work ethic work, some basically some not subject specific, but some tutoring and support. And then our literacy lab, which is for kids who really do struggle with reading and their literacy skills. And if you add all of that up, you've got hundreds of kids getting support. And what's happening because of that is kids aren't failing classes. Kids might fall behind for a little while, but we identify them, we catch them up, and then we move them back out of those supports into whether it's a study hall or an elective class, wherever they would have been otherwise. And this is all separate from special education. This is the supports we're giving kids short of them getting to a point where we need to worry about testing them for special education services. At the same time, as student demand for certain classes is growing, we've added some resources there. We are the only school I know of in the recent past to increase their Latin time. We had such demand for Latin classes this year that we needed to add some extra sections of Latin, and we were able to do that with this budget. And also, as we move from the building project to just occupation of a new school, we want to keep things in the best shape possible. So you did see last year us putting back in some maintenance, repair, and equipment requests that you hadn't seen for the previous few years in our budget. This year, they're still in there. You are going to see a very small decrease in them, but we want to keep things up to date. We want to keep things working. We don't want to let this facility start to get into a place where there's major fixes by making sure we're taking care of all the minor fixes right away. So that's where we put our resources. The question, like I said, is what did we get out of it? Well, our professional development has really focused on a few key areas where we think we're going to get the biggest bang for the buck. The flipped classroom, the idea of using technology, not just the technology in school, but also the increasing access our kids have to technology in the home. A recent survey, we found out 95% of our students have an internet accessible computer in their home available to them whenever they need it. So it's really allowed us to move forward with a lot of technology-based homework. And the flipped classroom approach takes a good bit of training and support for teachers, but we're finding, especially in our math and science classes, incredible results with it. We've taken the instructional rounds approach that used to be district-wide, and this year at the high school we're doing internal rounds where it's high school teachers observing other high school teachers, learning from one another, giving feedback to one another, and it's been extremely well received. The idea that it's your peers giving you feedback is a powerful way to drive instruction forward. And you may be wondering, what's an unconference? It's kind of the hip technology term for a very loosely organized conference. We've started doing technology training for our teachers, by our teachers, built into times we already have. And it's been great. I've never seen, post-PD surveys as positive as the ones where it's our teachers putting themselves out there, demonstrating their expertise, working in small workshop groups with other teachers. And that's something we'd really like to support and do more of. We've got another one planned for probably in March, as long as the snow days end. Curriculum enhancement. We've done a lot of curriculum work. Right now, our social studies and phys ed curricula are in their first year of implementation. We had a certain amount budgeted in this year's budget to support those, including a lot of that project adventure work. There's some training involved in that that's beyond, obviously the building project paid for the nuts and bolts of it, in many cases literally nuts and bolts, but the training to get the teachers where they need to be with their expertise, their certifications, that was built into our budget. And the project adventure stuff is great. It's, for the kids who aren't your organized team sports kids, they get a huge, this is a way to bring them into our phys ed curriculum more effectively. Our science and art curricula are being revised right now. Just like the elementary school, when you start playing with your art curriculum, you start finding out there's more and more art supplies that you really could use to be able to fully support it. Our transition programs, this has been a goal of ours both coming into and going out of high school through our school counseling and special ed departments, and through a great deal of collaboration with Jim Sachs and the Clark Lane staff. We've really worked on that transition, making sure, first of all, that our kids stay here, second, that they're successful moving into the high school, and third, that they have a real solid plan for their own success after high school. And also, our increased focus on technology tools, and I did want to point out school-owned technology and bring your own device technology. Last year was a question of, can this work? We learned a lot last year, positive and negative, about how to manage student devices in school. And this year it's gone from can it work to how do we leverage it so that we're getting the most instructional value out of something you guys didn't buy. This is great. Very often we can do research in class, very individualized, each kid working on the thing they need to be working on without having to have any computers available. Believe it or not, kids' eyesight is so good they can actually write a paper on screens this big. I've seen kids hooked up to their Google Doc accounts typing a paper with just their thumbs. I'm astounded I couldn't do it. But they can. So, what did we get for it? Student accomplishments. I could not be prouder of our students. We have really high-performing kids, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about some of the details of that. You may remember Jason Adler's presentation a couple of months ago. I'm just going to hit the highlights of it. College acceptance and enrollment. Our last year's senior class was accepted to 24 of the schools on U.S. News and World Report's top 50 lists of national, regional, or liberal arts colleges. 86% of our last year graduates are currently enrolled in college. The rest of them are either in the workforce, in non-college certification programs for a career, or in the military. Our kids place first statewide, I love saying this, they place first statewide in the career tech ed exams in 3 different categories. First of all, computer-assisted drafting. That is an in-demand career for the future. We've got kids who go from our classroom to internships at EB, and from there on to jobs there. And we're teaching kids real life skills there. Our nutrition and foods class, those students also place first statewide in the career and tech ed exams. And if you take all of the different career tech ed exams that our students took and you average their scores, you hold them up to the rest of the state, we place first overall statewide for all testing. Of course, there's something that the tech ed and family consumer sciences courses have in common. They are very material intensive. these are the classes that really do drive our consumable purchases at the high school. And you are going to see some increases there in the 611 account, which are primarily driven by these two areas. Our SAT scores, the highest scores in several years. I believe it's 5 or 6 years. We are above the state and national average. There are 19 high schools in Durg D. We are number 7 in our SAT scores. So even like schools with a like demographic here in Connecticut, the ones we should be equally competing with, we're outscoring. So our kids are doing something right, and I believe it's because our teachers are doing a lot of things right. Our advanced placement exams. We had 101 students take AP exams this year for a total of 183 tests taken. 87% of them scored a 3 or higher. Now, these are scores that can qualify kids for college credit. Now, if you think about what 3 college credits costs right now, we can be talking for some of these kids about thousands of dollars of savings for their families because we are offering those AP and UConn ECE courses. And this is college level coursework. These kids are doing great in it. Of course, if you ask students, why do you love high school? And by the way, 80% of them said that they actually do enjoy coming to Waterford High School. In a recent survey we took on them, they don't usually tell you about test scores and curriculum revision. They will tell you about dumping buckets of water on their principal's head. And student life and school climate, this is another area that we've put a lot of work into. We've had a lot of success in the last year. And the middle and right-hand dumpies are a big part of that. That's Jean Ryan and Allison Mosier. The two of them work together extremely well to support a positive school climate. And I want to tell you a little bit about some of the big victories for us this year. First of all, it's a board goal to retain kids in district going from 8th into 9th grade. And one of the big things we set up, and our teaching assistant principal, Greg Woods, was the person who spearheaded this with the middle school, was we created the Lancer Fair 8th grade tours. We brought the kids in, we had a meeting for them, we brought them around the school in small groups, and then we had a club and activity fair for them. And the feedback from that has been overwhelmingly positive. A little bit less public, but probably in the long run a bigger impact. We've got before and after school tutoring and mentoring programs where high school students go down to Clark Lane rather than going to a study hall or rather than going to a job after school or whatever it is they might do. And they mentor kids, they're homework buddies for them, and we've had great success with that. Stephanie DiNatale, who's coordinating it at the middle school, has been raving about the kids that we've got down there, who we're sending down. And you know what? It makes the high school students feel like, such contributing adults to be able to be role models for 6th graders. We started language honor societies for French, Latin, and Spanish this year. We started a high honor roll breakfast. We're actually planning our second marking period high honor roll breakfast. That's where the principal, assistant principals, and guidance counselors cook a pancake breakfast for everyone on the high honor roll. We intended originally to do it for the honor roll, but there's just too many kids on it. Our sports teams have these best of the best tournaments that are great for building school climate. We do them during advisory. And during any given tournament, you'll see 2/3, 3/4 of our student body there watching them. Our athletic participation rates, Dave is going to talk about athletics a little later, but if you add up the number of kids playing sports over 3 seasons, we've got 722 kids putting on Lancer uniforms and participating in sports. Lancer Nation T-shirts. This is a weird little statistic, but it tells you a little bit about how many kids feel very connected to their school. With 825 kids, we sold 715 T-shirts to kids that they personalize. They get their name or a nickname or some way to identify themselves on the back of the shirt, but it's the same design for everyone. And the interesting thing to me is we sold 100 of them to middle school students, not high school students. So I like the future Lancer Nation shirts. Our student school climate surveys were extremely positive. They did help us identify a few areas we want to work on with school climate, but overwhelmingly, like I said, 80% of the kids admitted in a survey that they enjoy coming to school every day at Waterford High School. We've been really focusing on bringing kids together and having them have shared experiences, class meetings, what we call town hall meetings. We tried something new this year. We had an opportunity to bring in the Flock Theater to present Macbeth to our 10th graders while they were studying Macbeth. And it was such a great way to bring Shakespeare to life for kids. It's not meant to be read, it's meant to be watched. And it was so successful in helping kids access the curriculum that I have put a little bit of money into next year's budget request to help support an opportunity to do that again in the future. And I hope you all went to see I Am. It was a student-written, student-produced play that we had after we had done the weekend run of it. It was so powerful that, again, at Allison's suggestion, we had it performed for all of our 9th grade girls. It has since then been performed for, I know, about a half dozen different high schools and organizations throughout southeastern Connecticut. There are plenty of after-school and evening activities and Spirit Week competitions. There's a lot that we've got going on to really support a positive school climate, which makes all of those instructional improvements possible. Of course, now we get to the price tag. There are some areas that we did see increases this year. And these are those areas. Our athletic transportation, we've got that annual increase in the contract with the bus company that is reflected here. Our student activity fund, we've had to, after years of trying to absorb the cost of gradually increasing rights to use music and scripts for our music and drama productions, we've decided we really can't absorb those gradually increasing costs without an increase, and we had to build that in for this year. Our field trips, as I mentioned, we want to have some money set aside to bring in another production like the Macbeth production from this year that really drove student understanding of our curriculum. And we've got some travel for the orchestra that has been part of the curriculum, but it's been an unfunded travel expense that we've been trying to patch together, and we really do need to just build that into what we're asking for. Instructional supplies, that is our big increase. Material costs are rising. At the same time, the Perkins grant, which we've used for a long time to buy career or tech ed supplies, has changed what they will and won't qualify, and it left us at the last minute this year with a several $1,000 hole in our budget. And so we don't want that to happen again. We want to make sure we have the supplies we need. So we've had to build in an increase to adjust for that, as well as those rising material costs. Maintenance and repair, just over $12,000 of that $14,000 increase has to do with the reallocation of where copier costs are, built into the budget. Library, our books and supplies budget there, that is primarily the cost of online databases going up. Now, what we have found in the last couple of years is that student use of online databases is rapidly outpacing their use of actual three-dimensional books. And we don't want them thinking that research is Googling things. We want them using much more academic databases, so we need to have a wide variety of them. And as the price goes up, we're finding that the teachers really do find a value in them, so we want to keep them. And then dues and fees, there's a small increase in a number of different membership costs that are reflected there. The specific dues and fees that we pay, because that is a big chunk of a high school's budget, are detailed here for you. Many of these are those unavoidable. If you want to play sports with other schools, you have to have your membership in the CIAC and the ECC. You want to be an accredited high school, you have to have your membership up to date in the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. And the others are all memberships where we get more from them in terms of materials, professional development, support, than what they cost us. So there is a little over a $400 increase there. But as I said, those are in many cases non-negotiable, and in the other cases worth more than we spend on them, dues and fees. And then there are those areas where we're very happy to be able to report that we're holding the line. The big one is sports. our athletic student activities account has actually decreased slightly, and Dave's going to detail how that's possible for you in a few minutes. What I can tell you, though, is he's done a remarkable job of being very careful with our resources, and so he'll walk you through that soon. Our equipment budget, as I said, it was something we put back into the budget last year, and this year we're looking at what do we really need, what are those pieces that we need to stay current and stay, where we need to be. And we were able to get by with less than last year. Our textbook budget, our conference and professional development budget, we're keeping where they were. So the overall impact. Our budget has gone up by $35,831. If you factor out the copier cost allocation, it is otherwise a real increase of $22,661, which is a 5.34% increase. And this is what it supports. Continuing support for our staff. Those math and literacy coaches are worth their weight in gold. And anything we can do to give teachers the support to enhance instruction is worth it. Career-focused coursework, which, as I mentioned, is not cheap. It's those but supplies-intensive areas. But it really is giving kids something valuable for the future. Implementing our newly written curricula, we want to make sure we have the instructional resources needed for them. And we want to be able to continue to fund our efforts to make the best use of the technology available to us, make sure that internal rounds is a viable way for us to drive teacher improvement, and to foster more sophisticated research skills. And that's where those databases are really essential to us. We'll get to sports in a few minutes. First, has anyone got any questions for me?
Anybody? I have comments, of course. No, I think you're doing a great job. I'm at the high school quite a bit during basketball season, especially, and so many people that come in from other towns. They're so impressed with the high school, and it's always nice and clean, and our students are very well behaved. And it's a nice place. I just have one question, I guess, for Craig. The Latin program. Are you using Kevin Ballestrini's program in Latin class?
So I had Janet look at that, and the direct answer is no. But she is looking at it, and we're thinking about maybe the opportunities at the middle school. And if she had gone full time, one of Jim's plans were to maybe offer that as a school opportunity. In the future, we'll look at that.
Because Kevin Ballestrini is a graduate of Waterford High School, and he teaches at NFA, and he and a friend of his developed a Latin program, and the students at NFA just love it. So then we got them interested in Latin, so I'm happy our students are interested in it too. But it's great if you could offer it in Clark Lane. That's even better. Anybody else?
High school questions?
Thank you.
Very well. Hi, Dave.
I haven't seen you in a long time.
Well, it's a good thing and the bad thing. We are extremely competitive in our athletic program. That's the good part, but unfortunately that's the bad part because we have to pay for this. If you look at our fall athletic programs this year, every single one of them reached the state tournament and did an exceptional job in there. Some of them went very, very deep into the tournament, girls soccer and so forth, which means that every time they go a little bit further, it's another bus trip, and usually in the state tournament's a little bit further. And because of the league structure that we have, even though it's been a little crazy trying to settle that, but it's been kind of resolved. Some of our trips to Woodstock and Killingly and Tortolot and so forth create issues that we just have no other options, but they're part of our league and on our master schedule, so we have to fulfill our things from our league. As far as our budget is concerned, we me and myself try to keep that number down as close as I can. I know I've lived in Waterford my whole life, and I understand that we all have issues and we have to pay for things and so forth. So what I've been able to do to try to hold down, we've come up with some unique things. I mean, such as our JV and freshman basketball uniforms. We found an exceptional quality uniform that we can flip, and they're reversible and they look beautiful, and you wouldn't even know it if you look at it. That such a uniform, instead of buying two, we're buying one. We no longer buy sweatsuits. We no longer buy jackets for teams and so forth. It's kind of, we just don't buy those kinds of things because, unfortunately, it's hard to hold on to them. They kind of disappear, and then it creates more issues than what you're looking for. We don't buy shooting shirts. And what we found, and it's not that we're trying to, pass the cost on to other people, but the teams are able to, most of our teams do fundraise. They do not major things by any means. They do some things where they can, when they want to purchase their warm-up shirts or they buy a sweatshirt, a team sweatshirt, they're able to buy it for half price, those kinds of things. And it actually, I think it makes it a little bit better because now they have to work for it. It's not just given to them, and they take better care of it. So that's been a plus for us. Some of our teams, like our baseball team, Art Peluso, has done an exceptional job of fundraising. And one of the things that I kind of demand out of that is we're not just going to buy things to buy toys and so kids can have things at the end of the year. If we're going to go out there and fundraise, we want to add things that will add back into the program. So he's put some the center field screen in the field, which was like $2,800. He bought that out of fundraising. And he's bought some pitching mounts for inside, and softball has bought things for their fence and so forth. So a lot of our teams have stepped up. And if you ever you come to some of our Play for the Cure games, they do a lot of giving back. We just had our Play for the Cure game in girls basketball the other night. They raised a lot of money the week before. Our wrestling team did a Play for the Cure, and we did it for the two girls with cancer in the town. And they ended up, I think, over $1,000 they raised in the one night. So, we're doing some pretty good things that we're not just out there playing sports and not giving back to the community. So if you look at our budget, we're trying to hold the line. So some of those cost-saving things, we've been able to keep it under, we're trying to get it lower if we can, at least not going up. And we've been pretty successful with that. Most of the stuff that you see on my budget is standard stuff from walls and officials and workers and things like that can't be changed. The awards, we do a nice job with our awards. We're not excessive. We no longer give out, in the old days you got a captain's jacket, for instance. We no longer do those kinds of things. It's not cost effective. We do win a lot of state championships. We no longer give out rings. That was an exceptional amount of money that would have been in the old days. I think they never expected us to win so many, so it was okay then. But unfortunately, we've gone away and tried to be realistic with the times and what we're trying to do.
We can get a discount somewhere for all the rings?
We should buy them in bulk.
Yeah.
Again, so unfortunately, or fortunate, we're very successful. We have great coaches. They do an exceptional job. We have great athletes. They're very entrenched in their particular sports. We do have some girls or boys that play 3 sports for us, and they're very successful. We have a swimmer going to West Point with which you're looking at, over $200,000 in education, which is for nothing. And then we have a couple of baseball players that have signed Division I scholarships, and we have kids that play at every level you could imagine, from community college to Division I, all kinds of sports. So that's all the good stuff.
So when you look at this athletic budget and you compare it to last year, to the current fiscal year, you're looking at a slight decrease, and that's really a credit to the work that you've done.
That's right. Any questions for Dave? Or?
The security costs, our games aren't violent, are they?
Absolutely not.
It's the band.
Well, they're really not watching the game. They're not supposed to be. They're watching the grounds. And unfortunately, sometimes we do get some unruly parents, or something might happen. We've never had any issues with our athletes. We're very good at it. And that's just something for days. Unfortunately, this time, and where society is, you have to make sure you're protecting everybody.
What's nice too, Sherry, is when the police are there, they also walk around the building because our building is wide open pretty much. So I appreciate it that they're walking around.
Make sure that people, it's not crazy getting out.
Yeah. Any other questions? Well, I think you're doing a great job, Dave. I see it firsthand all the time. Just one quick question though: the CAS, CIAC, they charge that amount of money, and the ECC also charges you both?
The CIAC, I'm not sure that what the CIAC's, what they actually CAS CIAC charges for.
4,610.
Well, the CAS CIAC membership covers both our membership in the Connecticut Association of Schools and the Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference. If you actually break it out by the services they provide, the larger portion of it is the athletic piece of it. And yes, that's for a school our size, that's the annual membership.
But they use our school a lot.
Right.
For a lot of things.
And
Do you get reimbursed?
And actually, every time that we play in a state tournament, that probably costs the school another $1,000 because every team that we send, we have to pay just to let them go.
So do we get reimbursed when they have to play at our school?
When they come to our school, the only thing we get reimbursed is the cost of putting on the event. And whatever you make, we get to keep in the concession stand. That's the only
You don't get anything from the gate? Oh, brother.
But that's part of being in the whole deal, because if they don't have the schools that would do that, Jody, then the cost that we're paying initially would be 4 or 5 times.
No, I realize that, but you're taking a lot.
Yeah, you're right. It's another couple nights out, but on the other parts of that, though, by us hosting, we're not putting our kids on a bus rather than the other side of Connecticut and then have to come home at 12 o'clock. So luckily, our teams are pretty good. We get a lot of home games.
Can you use the vans at all for any of the smaller teams, like for golf or something?
We talked, but
Never worked it out yet.
the van is just a little small because it holds 7. Is that right? Yeah. Like our golf team, we send 7 people.
But you need the golf clubs and
We
everything.
had one outstanding golfer that advanced on individual play or something like that.
We might use it this year. We have a young Shane kid. Maybe he'll go on.
And we did use it last Saturday for
Yeah, that's great.
Hubert, I guess they call it.
It's nice if we could use the vans for other things.
I thought originally when that was talked about, it was going to be a great thing for us.
Yeah.
Just probably only for golf because that's the only small team we have.
Okay, anything else? Okay. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dan. Dave. Buildings and grounds. Jay Minor's going to join us.
I have no idea.
You ready? Bob and I will keep you awake.
Here we go. Sorry you had to wait for the most exciting stuff for last. But we've had a really, really busy year. It's been a great year. We've had a lot of accomplishments for the town and the Board of Ed. We've built Ed and Kelly and his staff a brand new office over in the maintenance building. And it seems to be working out pretty well for them. We put in the infrastructure for the computer lab at Clark Lane, which you've heard about. We did all of the network wiring for the new Wi-Fi system at Clark Lane. And we also did all the networking for the Follow Me printers at Clark Lane. The concession stand is all fit out, mostly. And the new baseball press box has really been a great thing to have there. It's really come out well. All the lighting, the sound system. A lot of that wasn't in the contract of the new school, so we did that in-house. And Oswegatchie got all new acoustical panels in the cafeteria, and hopefully that will mitigate some of the sound. For the town, we did, again, networking for their voice over IP phone system and Public Works, the PD, YSB, Town Hall. It was quite a big job. And we also did the same thing with the Board of Ed and the town for the new Kronos time and attendance system. We've been doing work with the PD as far as bringing in their LED lighting on the outside of the building for security. And we've also been supporting them with HVAC, electrical, plumbing. And a lot of the work orders that they submit are phone calls. They don't even make it into the system. But it's been better and better over the years, and we've finally been able to track somewhat of what we've been doing for the town. So as you can see, we went higher on the work orders for this year than last year, and the hours applied to the town have been worthwhile as a cost saving for the town. Some of the work orders, it doesn't look like a large number of work orders, but some of those, one work order could take 2 guys 2 weeks to wire something or repair something or install something. This item on page 53 is used for rentals for things that we don't have, like backhoes or lifts for the outside lighting. If we can't get the bucket truck to the town, or if it's higher, or we need some kind of equipment.
And that's level funding?
That's level. This is for travel for some of the maintenance workers that do not have vehicles, and if there's a need to get, during the work day, to get a custodian from one school to the other. Someone calls out sick. Service contracts, these are for asbestos training, chemical treatment of the boilers at the middle school, cooling towers, things like that. And snow removal and sanding services from outside contractors. We haven't had to use them for a while, but it's good to have in there. This year was the first year that we've had an issue with snow removal.
Yeah.
Vehicle supplies, these are things that we install in the vehicles, change the oil, wiper blades, bulbs, things like that. Page 59. We raised this a little bit because of the average of the last 4 years. We've been creeping up. Painting supplies, this is for normal wear and tear in the buildings. They are getting a little more wear and tear, and we've been doing our best to keep up with the elementary schools, and now we're actually seeing some issues in the high school we'll have to address. On page 60, we have pool supplies. These are for your chemicals, CO2, and shock and things like that over the course of the year. Custodial and maintenance supplies are consumables for your paper products, garbage bags, soap, etc. Maintenance supplies, these are for some of the HVAC supplies, outside filters, which we broke out with electrical uniforms. We took them out of the budget. You'll see there are some pluses and minuses, so we could better track where the money's actually going in these individual accounts. Repair HVAC. This is for a lot of your chillers, and since we've gone to mostly heat pump systems, that we're doing a lot of work with the air handlers in the elementary schools and a lot of the geothermal systems. So you can see where we've got some reductions on the main accounts, custodial and maintenance, and we've moved it down into uniforms. We've broken out repairs, HVAC, and air filters and things like that, just to get a better handle on it.
You might recall that in Bob's presentation in the first workshop, he talked about really restructuring those accounts so that we could do a better tracking, and I think this will really be helpful.
Yeah, it is. These are for getting our trucks fixed and over-the-road vehicles that we take to local shops. We also use it for small power equipment, snow blowers and sanders, things like that. And that's had an increase because we have had a lot of wear and tear on the equipment. This is dedicated to the fire extinguisher contracts. They come in annually and pick the extinguishers up, take them away, and check them, hydro them, whatever needs to be done to them. Alarm repairs, these are mandated by the state of Connecticut to inspect our fire alarms in the summer and also do repairs on burglar alarms, temperature alarms, boiler alarms, things like that. General repairs, these are for some of the hardware, doors and locks, and playground equipment. A lot of that rubber surfacing out in the playgrounds, we use this to buy the material to repair those, which we do in-house. Site repairs, a lot of this is from the snow issues that we've been having. We use it for some of the wood rail fences that get damaged or curbing, and drainage piping and things like that. Building committee, that has been reduced. We're not going to be using that line item for the building committee anymore. So we're continuing to work with the town, and the town's been helping us when we need them. In the last storm, we've supplied equipment to the town and vice versa. It's working out well with Park and Rec and Public Works. Also, there's an additional electrician in the budget, because since we've been switching from boilers and steam and hot water heating systems to more of the geothermal, there's a lot more demand for an electrician, because most of our heating calls are electrician-based versus plumber or HVAC. So we're looking at a basic increase of 2%.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Jay or comments? I think he's very quiet.
Very quiet.
Jay, thank you. I mean, I really appreciate, I've been on the school building committee for years, and I really appreciate all the hard work you've done. And thank you for getting the concession stand already. We need an electrician because the electricity didn't work. Just one quick question. Do we have a plan in place to make sure, like for instance, the football field, the multi-use field? Do we have something in place for the upkeep of it?
Well, the annual upkeep, we do what's called the impact test on the field. We rake it and we maintain it, but we don't have a capital budget plan in place for replacement down the road for the track and field.
But it's something that we want to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
We talked about
We've had the conversation with the town. It's something we want to do.
It would apply to everything. It would apply to the roof,
Everything.
the pumps,
Yeah.
the geothermal system, everything. We don't have a capital plan in place.
But we will, right?
Well, it's something that we know we want to develop.
Thank you. Okay, does anybody on the board have any questions? Greg.
Just one. Page 19. What's an auditorium manager?
Shane.
We have a position, and that individual is shared with the town and the board, and really provides oversight for all community use of that particular facility. I think that, Craig, if I recall, that's a position that's been in place for more than 10 years?
The auditorium?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when the auditorium was built, we didn't have one, and we found that when different people came in to try to use the lighting and the sound, and there were issues of repair and loss of some of the microphones and some of the wires. So we've had an auditorium manager. The current one has been in the position for about 8 years. Prior to that, we had one for 6 or 8 years before that, so a long time.
So all the community use that goes through Rec and Park, there'll be a coordination with the individual in this position so that it's scheduled well, it's supervised well, there's training involved with the high technology that's in that particular
What are the
auditorium.
hours of the position? Is it a 9 to 5 job? What do they do when there's nobody in the auditorium? Where are they situated?
So the hours would be on an on-need basis. So in that case, it's a year-round position. We use them for our plays. Our auditorium manager currently also puts on production. For all the performances, you'll see the person there when they're putting on the plays. That's an extra stipend, but really anytime the auditorium is open, the person is in there.
Well, for example, tomorrow, will they show up at work? What time?
Generally by 8 o'clock. There's a certain amount of flex. If there's going to be a lot of nighttime events, they might come in a little later, or they might come in the morning to make sure everything's set and be home for a while, then come back to work when the auditorium's in use. It is one of those, with the nature of the job, the hours can't be, terrible.
Very flexible.
But most mornings, somebody can change around 8.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Kathy Vaughn, I have a question for you that I couldn't find. You have the Raymond Hill School Learning Center listed. What is that? Because I couldn't find it in the descriptions that you have. Unless
What page are you referring to?
I'm on page 46 where it's listed that we have a student going there. But I looked under, and I really appreciate your synopsis of each of the schools. That was a big help. But that was one that unless it's tied in with a different school.
Page 46, you said?
Well, I found it on page 46, but I couldn't find it.
Tuition?
Oh, well, on page 38 to 40, you have the synopsis of each of the schools, but on page 46, you're listing the Raymond Hill School Learning Center. But I couldn't.
If you look on page 39.
Okay.
And you have the title of it, Raymond Hill School instead of Cleaver, but it's called Growth.
Oh, okay.
It's actually, the site is located on it's called Cleaver, but the school itself is called the Raymond Hill School.
Okay.
It's a private placement, which is residential placement, which means to place that, and then the school on that placement is called Raymond Hill School.
Okay, thank you. No questions or anything? Okay, now does anybody in the audience have any questions?
I have to mostly for the middle school and the high school.
Okay.
Some of the most, much just idle curiosity. Do we have any in the high school or the middle school? Do we have any folks that have or we need English as a second language?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't hear any mention of it. That's why I asked.
The district-wide bill, we currently have 15 children that require English as a second language service throughout the district. Currently, we have one staff member managing 50 across 5 buildings. There will be, that's why we're requesting half-time.
He obviously has a high difficulty, he or she obviously has a high difficulty.
Yeah. Additional staff to support that bill.
What do you count the increase in interest in Latin?
A big part of it is we have a lot of kids who are interested in medical fields or legal fields. Another piece of it is we added a Latin class that was specific to Greek and Roman mythology, and it sort of opened a door to a whole new type of student for the Latin. They might not be the ones who are interested in conjugating the verbs, but that mythology is always fascinating to a certain core group of kids, and they've all
I'll admit to being in that group.
And we knew it was an underserved
I was
population.
introduced to Greek and Roman mythology when I was in 3rd grade. And so when I took Latin in high school, reading the first year Latin was all reading the myths. I already knew what the myths were, so it was easy. So that's why I mentioned that, because of course, growing up in a Catholic school, we used Latin for lessons in the Mass, and so therefore we used it. So nowadays you don't use it except for the medical field, the legal field, where they still have all those. In the athletics, why is it more expensive for boys basketball security than girls basketball security? I mean, you're still just watching the gym. Is it because you got bigger crowds?
We get bigger crowds, exactly. So there may be times where we have 2 staff members on instead of 1, or 1 session on.
Even with the number 1 team in the nation, up to UConn, we still haven't learned the people and the value of girls basketball.
I would love to see the same crowds at girls basketball games that we get at boys, but unfortunately it's not a reality right now.
We have a really good team, though.
Oh yeah, great.
I may have other questions that the Board of Finance
finance after I've had a chance to look at the budget and ask some specific questions.
And Bill, feel comfortable in emailing or giving us a call with any questions, any information you
Something
need.
I think will catch you unaware, I will. Otherwise, I won't.
Okay.
Some things never change.
Oh, yeah, this is a question for Jay. Do we have qualified HVAC folks in the maintenance department, or do you always have to go out to the?
Now, we have licensed individuals, licensed home plumbing, we have E1, we have P licenses, we have fire protection licenses, and we have refrigeration and
With all the new schools and everything, how much asbestos do we still have hanging around in the schools? I know there's some.
they don't have any.
I figured.
So we still have to have asbestos trained personnel.
Because of the town.
Because of state law.
Oh, okay.
And they have to be trained to identify it. They have to be trained to know how to basically cordon it off. Because they change the regulations so much that we're not even allowed to touch floor tiles. And I know the town does have some in their building, but the schools, because we're predominantly in the schools, we have to be trained.
Okay. How come you don't use the town garage for the maintenance of the kids?
Every year.
Well, I did check with that initially, and there were some specific requirements on the state level when it comes to brake testing, for instance, has to be done, I think, every 90 days, and they didn't have the expertise to sign off on that, coupled with the time. So we contract that out.
Right. That's it for now. Oh, just a comment. School building committee is a permanent committee, so you're always going to have a school building committee.
Yeah, it's just that we're able to reduce the budget. We'll have the committee, but the expenses will be zero.
Because the secretary or whatever will come out of the normal salary.
Out of the Board of Ed. Yep.
Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? Okay.
So we have on our agenda for next Thursday the adoption of a budget. It would then become the Board of Education budget that we would move forward to the Board of Finance for review. Is there anything that you need us to do in preparation for that item under new business next Thursday? You okay?
Good.
Do we need to add funding for the search?
We do.
But some of that money might need to come out of this year's budget if we approach somebody now.
But we can't appropriate for this year. So we're going to have to figure out how we would manage this year's funding. But we do need to put a dollar amount aside. And probably with the two proposals that you have is maybe as a placeholder put the higher total just so that you have it. And would you be comfortable with that for us to add that to the request?
So there's some things that were excluded from those proposals. And I don't know that we have those in our budget, for example, advertising.
Yeah.
So we probably want to pick a round number, like 25.
You think 25?
Well, I don't know what the advertising costs are.
Do you want me to do a little research on that with other districts, what the costs have been when you're looking at the advertising along with the consultant services?
And also, what is not, and this may be a bigger line item, we've got transportation. Apparently, customers will pay for these candidates to fly in or house them and whatnot.
That can be your decision.
Well, reading the proposals, that's what it says.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I don't know.
So we'll do a little research between now and next Thursday to try to come up. I'll make some contact with some other districts that have recently been through the process to just kind of get a sense of what the total cost might be. Would that be helpful?
Yeah. I mean, NESDEC, it's $18,234 if we include their advertising. They didn't say anything about transportation or...
They excluded it.
Yeah.
They did. All right. I'll do a little research on that over the next week, bring that to the board, and then that would be something that we would add to the proposed budget that you have right now in front of you. Okay? And we would take...
Forward with one of these two churches, why doesn't it come out of this budget? Right now?
FY15, you didn't budget for it. I mean, you could
We can't
look
find the
at,
money somewhere?
well, you could look at, readjusting the funds. If you recall, when we came to the Finance Committee, we're looking at a very, very tight budget between now and the end of the year, but we can make those modifications if you need some of those sources. Absolutely.
Because I think we might need it this year, at least for
Yeah.
a down payment. Both of these companies you could pay in like half or in thirds.
Installments.
Yeah, installments.
But I think the key for FY16, you need to come up with a dollar amount to
Right.
place in your budget so you can be assured of meeting that expense. So we'll do a little homework on that for you.
Yeah. Are we all set then? Everybody? Okay.
We'll do
Thank you very much for coming out tonight. I know it's very cold out, and we appreciate
Thank you, everybody.
We appreciate you coming. Yeah, Aunt, you need a motion to adjourn?
my car?